What I know for sure is when you are in phase one of trust issues, constantly telling and singing the song, I can't, you are listening on replay to a horrible soundtrack, and you will experience setback after setback, even when God has called you to bounce back. Hey there, Beacon. Welcome home to your Bounce Back Blueprint Community Podcast. I am your Bounce Back guide, Tiffany Huff Struthers, and I am so happy to have you here with me today. We are continuing our trust issues series, and today we are going in on phase one. Grab your journal and let's get it. So, of course, unless you have been living under a rock for the past couple of months now, then you know we are all in the midst of some shifting, right? We're all in the midst of some things being shaken up, and most of us have been faced because of this pandemic or crisis, whatever you want to refer to it as. Most of us have been faced with the ideal challenge of compromising health, right? And so, first and foremost, I want to just say that I am praying that you are well, your family is well, and your loved ones are well, right? The secondary challenge for most people, the majority of people, is the challenge of unemployment, underemployment, or closure of your business or the business that you work for, right? Because it's not essential, or there were some, again, health risks or challenges with your place of work functioning or operating, right? And what that means is a decrease in money, right? It means that people are challenged with everyday living, paying rent, paying mortgages, paying bills, having enough food to eat, all of those things, right? And when there is a crisis or a situation such as the one we are facing now, a lot of people on their bounce back journey, whether they have been in phase 2, 3, or 4 in the past, find themselves reverting to phase one, I can't, because we allow the world to cause us to shift our perspective and think that God can't do anything, or we can't lean on God to do anything. We have to do it all ourselves. We have to fix everything ourselves. And what we quickly will realize is that we cannot fix everything ourselves. And that will lead to overwhelm and anxiety and a lot of other things. And so I wanted to preface this episode by saying that if you're in this phase, be encouraged. Again, I am praying for you, and you're not alone. And you can certainly trust God. And so I want to dig into how I know that this is true. So, our scriptural reference for this week, for today's session, is Jeremiah 7:8. And it simply says, "But look, you are trusting in deceptive words that are worthless." You are trusting in deceptive words that are worthless. And I could not agree with this word more, that when you say I can't trust God, you are believing in deceptive words that are worthless. Now, here is what is reminiscent of being in phase one and believing in these deceptive words. You're probably stressed out, overworked, underpaid, maybe overweight, and lacking in self-care. In this phase, you find yourself saying you can't trust God, and you struggle because you begin to assume the role of God. Let me repeat that. In this phase, you struggle because you feel like you can't trust God, and so you begin to assume the role of God. Here's the thing, sis. You can't be God. And so what I want you to remember as we work through phase one is this simple truth. You can smile in the dark. I don't know about you, But when I find myself in the dark, in an unfamiliar place, unsure of how I will get out or what I might encounter along the way, I put my game face on. I push my glasses up real close to my face because in the darkness, you never know what is about to go down. But I can remember a time when I was laying in bed, reflecting, and even though there were some great things going on, there was a lot of uncertainty in my life at that time. And I was laying there in the dark and I found myself smiling. And I could clearly hear God say to me, "You can smile in the dark, Tiffany." And I know you're probably thinking, what is there to smile about when you're in the dark, right? When you're in the midst of a storm and you can't see whether the path is leading left or right, or when God is telling you to get out of your boat to walk on the water and you never learned how to swim, the water is deep and it's too dark for you to see if there's any sharks, or what is there to smile about when it's dark and you're alone because nobody is willing to grow through this bounce back journey with you? And I get that. I really do. But I want you to stay with me here. You can smile in the dark. The truth is, being able to smile in the dark is all about trusting God and your perspective. Because here's what I know to be true. If you are in phase 1 and you feel you can't trust God, you've been smiling in the darkness you perceived as light for a real long time. Let's just be honest with ourselves. So I'm going to break it down to you even more. I'm going to tell you about this one time. So in 2001, I was starting my senior year in college and I was pumped. I had this amazing scholarship from the Bill Gates Foundation covering all of my expenses. I had another scholarship paying for my rent. I had it made. I thought I had everything figured out. I was working a full-time job, being a full-time student. And why? Because I had a 2001 vehicle with a car note. And plus, I had to keep up with the Joneses in them. On the scene, blasting Ja Rule and Ashanti. Always there when you call. And God, meanwhile, was calling me. But I didn't realize it because, I was jamming the Jagged Edge too. Where the party at? And so the call came as this strong yearning to quit my job at the bank I was working at. I was miserable. It was making me sick. That's how miserable I was. I didn't know at the time that God was calling me. I just knew I was over this job. So much so that it made me sick. So I did what a young, smart, responsible woman would do. I quit. I quit the job, took out student loans to live off, and, I just figured once I graduated, I would figure it out. Graduation came and went, and I got the quote unquote amazing job by everyone else's standard. I had more money to party and go to happy hour with, a bigger car payment, and a bigger car because, you make more money, you spend more money, right? That was my plan until it wasn't. So this cycle continued. I quit jobs in 2004, 2005, 2007, 2009, and 2012. Remember, this is a judgment-free zone. Every time God was calling me, but I couldn't trust him. It was too dark and the music was too loud. Fast forward to 2014. I felt like I had finally made the necessary revisions to my plan and I was not going to quit this job until I had the money and everything in place to manifest this vision that I had, right? But God called again. And this time the call was loud and clear. Loud and clear. And this is what he said. Quit the job, Tiffany. Get out of the boat. So, I was back to my soundtrack and I hit God with "Wait till I get my money right" in my Kanye voice. I promise you, I did. I was like, God, listen, I got a mortgage and a car payment now, remember? And God came through and hit me right back in his Chris Brown voice and was like, "I'll hold you down." I still didn't feel like I could trust him though. For weeks and weeks, I cried. I can't trust you. I can't do it. But the misery was back as if on cue. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I wasn't being productive at work. All I could do was show up and cry. I was in the middle of the storm, and nothing I did seemed to calm it. I felt stuck. I've been playing God all of this time. This time, though, it was even darker than before. I couldn't see if the path was leading me left or right. I never had learned to swim to that point in the deep, and I didn't know how I would defend myself against the sharks once I got out of the boat. I felt lonely and isolated because, it's kind of hard to call your friend and be like, God called me and said. Nobody really understood. And what I know now is that on this bounce back journey, there will be so many people who don't understand. But I can clearly remember trying it anyway. I called one of my friends and gave her the lowdown, and she said, "Why would God call you to quit your job when you just bought a house? Have a seat, Tiffany." I mean, those were her words verbatim. And I won't lie, I was in my feelings, but I was also clinging to the truth that, I can't trust God. But meanwhile, God was laughing. And then, just like I had done the first time he called me back in 2001, he turned up Ja Rule and Ashanti. And he was like, "I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time. I gave you my all. Now, baby, be mine." I don't know if that's the kind of communication you have with God, but that's how he and I get down. So in that season, I was like, okay, that was checkmate for God, right? That was me 0 and God winning, because how do I come back from that, right? While I was trying to justify the reasons that I couldn't trust God, this time, God reminded me that I had been trusting him the whole time, except I was taking all of his credit. While I thought I had gotten bored or I was overqualifying myself for the jobs I had left because I was miserable, God was growing me up and out of those jobs so he could take me higher. While I thought I was holding it down those other times when I quit those jobs, God reminded me that he had been holding me down when I quit those jobs every step of the way. You think you can't trust God? The truth is, you can't trust yourself. Remember, Jeremiah 7:8. You are trusting in deceptive words that are worthless. God can speak to your storm and God has been speaking to storms forever. Just like he spoke to the storm when the disciples were in the boat and they didn't know what to do when he was asleep. That's in Mark chapter 4. I'm not going to read it, but you should go check it out when we're done here. I didn't know it then, but I know now the storm I was in got worse with each passing day because I refused to trust God. Every day I told myself I can't. The wind grew stronger and the rain moved from a drizzle to a downpour. Be honest with yourself and admit you can't calm the storm. Only God can. But you have to trust him. And so I want to pause right here and just say, like I said, if you are experiencing habitual setbacks right now and you're trying to calm the storm in your own might, whatever that storm is for you, or you're doing some of the work that you have, that you have gotten divine downloads about for your bounce back blueprint, but you feel like you're not making any progress, I want you to consider if you have been trusting in deceptive words, or if the soundtrack you're playing is outdated, right? There's some new music that God has for you for the season that he is taking you into. And I don't know what you're being called to. Maybe you feel like you can't trust God at all. Maybe you feel like you can trust him with certain pieces of who you are, but not with other pieces. Maybe you think you can trust him to get you the job, but you're not ready to fully commit to your bounce back journey because you don't think you can trust God with your story. Here's the kicker though. When you try to contain your story yourself, what happens is you end up facing another setback and everything blows up, right? Your cover is blown. And here's the deal. If you feel like you can't trust God, it's likely because you are holding your faith in your hands. I don't know about you, but for me, in that season, holding my faith in my hands was so unconscious because I had been being taught over and over again to have faith. And so I felt like I needed to possess it. The truth, though, is when God starts calling you, when He puts on your jam, when He changes the soundtrack, when He's ready for you to begin your bounce back, you have to let go. You have to let the music move you from holding your faith to doing your faith, just like Peter did when he walked on water. You have to change your perspective. You have to recognize who God is and who you are. You have to recognize God's position and you have to recognize your position. When your perspective is aligned, you'll realize you can smile in the dark. And why? Because God is in control, not you. You can smile in the dark because God can speak to your storm and He can call you to walk on water. You have to know you can smile in the dark because God said you could. Trust God, sis. I promise you, you can. And so I want you for the next week to make that your mantra. I can smile in the dark. When you feel like God is calling you to do something new, when He reveals the next step for you to take on this bounce back journey, whether you've been holding your faith in your hands or you've been acting on it, act again. Leap again. Because sometimes a leap of faith is your only method of transportation. And it's the best method of transportation when you are in the dark and you are trusting God. Trust God because you can. And if you're struggling, then I want you to have a heart-to-heart with yourself and then have a heart-to-heart with God. And have a heart-to-heart with yourself again, because you gotta do the hard work. Here are a few questions to journal and pray through as you do that hard work. What areas of my life do I refuse to trust God with? What soundtracks am I listening to that are giving me false motivation to try and be God? And you got to get real honest with yourself here. You know, your journal, remember, is a judgment-free zone. It's between you and the Lord. And so get real with yourself, because the only way you are going to be able to begin to trust God is if you're willing to trust yourself. Next question. If I am honest and I reflect on my past, I know that God has been holding me down with. What storm am I in because I will not trust God to grow me up and out and through it? That's a whole word right there. What storm am I in because I will not trust God to grow me up, out, and through it? And how would my life be different if I stopped trying to possess my faith and started doing faith? Now, there's really enough journal prompts to get you through until next week's episode when we start to talk about phase 2. Before you dig into your journal questions, I want to make sure that if you're not already, you hit that button and subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening. Apple, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you are listening, hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't already, write a review, because when you write a review, you make this podcast more visible for beacons just like you who need the support and the encouragement and the challenge of a community so that they can thrive as they build their bounce back blueprints. Last but certainly not least, if you have not submitted your request to join the Bounce Back Blueprint community, you need to handle that, because it's going down in the community come May. So you don't want to miss out. All right, I am going to wrap it there for now. But remember, sis, you can smile in the dark because you can trust God. Know this, God is not going to play you, but if you think you are going to thrive on this bounce back journey, playing the soundtrack that says you can't, holding your faith instead of doing your faith, sis, you are playing yourself.